I also regularly have Joseph Scott Moran on the show. He's super smart. He's a certified death investigator, forensic analyst, distinguished scholar of applied forensics at Jacksonville University. So that's a guy who just knows a lot more than I know. And the big question I have for you is the big fancy words that are used. Mitochondrial DNA versus nuclear DNA testing. What's the difference? Why is it significant?
It is significant because contained within the mitochondrial DNA, which is something that, we're talking about hair shafts, right? So if you think about mitochondrial DNA generally coming from non-viable hair shafts, that's going to contain roughly about 0.25% of the genetic information. With nuclear DNA, why this is so important, this is going to essentially contain about 99.75% of all genetic material and information. And here's the beauty of this, Ash. The mitochondrial DNA comes only through the matrilineal line. With the nuclear DNA, that comes from mom and dad. Okay, so you were thinking about the daughter here. I'm very curious about this and how this was obtained. I think they have some rather interesting, the defense has, made some kind of comments relative to, well, how in the world could they have done this? I think they even used the word miraculous that they could have done this testing. But it is certainly, this is a landmark moment, I think, in this case, because they've used nuclear DNA to tie him back.
So I'm curious about the fact that they've got one hair and, it's more than a decade old. I always wonder how degraded evidence can be. And when you're getting to the nuclear level, I think it's a really good question. I think it's something that the defense would really mine. So what are the scientists going to say about that?
Yeah, what they're going to say is that there are new advances in DNA examination as it applies to nuclear DNA. It's been around, I guess probably since about 2018, and you can find bits of nuclear DNA free floating. And this is going to require what's referred to simply as amplification. They're going to be making copies. And this is going to be the tieback, I think, that they're looking for. Because, it's a legitimate question, right? If generally nuclear DNA is going to be found, the ideal circumstances is to find it in a root ball of the hair. And, hair shafts they don't necessarily always come out by the root. All of us have experiences with our own hair, right? Sometimes it'll break off mid-shaft. And we don't know what the nature of this hair is. That's going to be very interesting to explore. And listen, it's going to be, I know DNA science can be kind of dry, but this is going to be the linchpin to all of this, Ash. And when that DNA scientist sits on the stand in this trial, this is going to tie everything up with a bow. And it's going to be quite compelling to listen to how they arrived at this conclusion.
And then, just pile on everything else, which just is like, flaming arrows nonstop. Hey, Joseph Scott Moran, thank you for this. Really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, Ashley. Anytime.
Oh, pleasure's mine. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.